Welcome everyone to Todd Talks. Today I am joined by Mr. Jim Davis, and we are going to be talking about Dunamancy and, of course, the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. How have you felt about Dunamancy so far?
I love the potential of it, right? Like, so do you remember Spellfire from Forgotten Realms? This is going to be a tangent I bring us back to.
No, I do not.
It's like a magical force that's separate from spells. And so I got that same vibe from this, where it's like this is a force in Exandria, and by extension, if you're going to use this for your own game, like just your world, that has, I don't know, is something beyond just spell casting. And to me, I love tapping into the alternative forms of magic that exist within a D&D world, because to me they're just like a multitude of them, and spell casting is just one of those.
Right.
And so, like, in some ways, 5th edition embraces that by the fact that all these classes have different magical abilities. But I love seeing it like brought to the forefront with this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've gone to actually play with Dunamancy now. I was playing a Graviturgist, and it's a weird thing to think about.
Mhm.
But when it came to like developing a character, I couldn't figure out what type of character would be a Graviturgist.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I can think of a lot of, because I kept on thinking of things in terms of like X-Men and stuff like that. You know, like Magneto has powers,
Yeah.
but you're a wizard who just really digs gravity. And I eventually just came up with a Goliath who is very used to knocking people off of mountains, because what's more functional than that?
Sure. I mean, it does ask that you have a certain assumption about the world, and like for some people, the mixing of scientific terms and sort of the science worldview with fantasy is like they don't like those two flavors mixed. I love them. Like, let's mix them all together. And so I like the idea of a wizard studying the effect of gravity. That doesn't mean that gravity has to work the exact same way. It could be that gravity is a function of the element of earth, like if we're just like speculating or something. So I like this. I really like the idea of gravity, and I can see either like someone like a Sir Isaac Newton, like they've mastered spell casting, but it's like there's still this force in the world. There's something going on here that we can't quite understand. Like, there's no spell that makes things fall. Something must do it. There's no god of falling.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So, I mean, unless your world has that kind of stuff, because you maybe are like, I don't know, like to get that nitty gritty. But so I like the concept behind it. And to me, it's a natural fit. It's sort of like, especially for wizards, there's already that inquisitiveness, there's already that studiousness. So like taking it one step further and saying like, we're gonna look at this force that exists, but because it's D&D, it's also a magical force. And I think like I just love these things. Adjust density, gravity well. Makes me think first off of Mass Effect, and it's D&D in space, so
yeah. I mean, anyway. They're very evocative, and it's very fun to describe things. I did learn very quickly playing a Graviturgist, and James Hake was actually DMing. Fireball kind of disintegrates everything that's around. It's all on fire. Lightning can be a disintegration, or the bodies just fall down. But when you kill things with gravity, it's super gross.
Yeah.
You can't just nothing them away. You've broken bodies. There's just goo on the floor. Like, it's not good.
It's not. It makes you live with the consequences of it, right?
Right. Yeah. It stops being fantasy and more Event Horizon.
Sure. Like
it gets really upsetting.
It is. There's a lot of blood in the body. So you do, but it's sort of like, if you're interested in exploring the space between those two things, because on the one hand, you have the assumption of 5th edition, which is like everybody's combat competent, where part of the fun of this is a big fight, where we all use our powers to defeat the enemy and all, that kind of thing. And that also space of exploring the depths of your character. And I think it's in those moments where you can call out, say, in the middle of combat, my character is disturbed by what I just did. Or, that's what I call, that's role playing in combat. It's perfectly acceptable and possible.
Do you have a favorite amongst them? I think I actually quite like the Time Wizard. To
Yeah,
be
0 for
honest,
1, right?
the Chronergist is quite fun. I was going to play that, but then Lauren and Urban, being the selfish person that everyone knows her to be, chose to be a Chronergist. She's in chat right now yelling at me.
I think that you could have gone with 2, and then it's like that book, they're meeting each other.
That actually been quite fun. I think part of the point of the exercise was to show off the new subclasses.
Certainly.
I very much wanted to be a Graviturgist so we could show off what they could do. But I mean, talk about a lot of control. Two Chronergists together are just like tap, you're out. You're out.
You're done. You're done.
I feel like time's always been a part of D&D's lineage, and I play a lot of timey-wimey characters. I'm pretty obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So, I'm rewatching all of Doctor Who again because that's what I do.
God, yeah.
And Days of Future Past is actually a really good movie, in my opinion.
Time travel and the like is like so much of, how do I put this? It's like so much a genre and part of other genres, and it's such a fun thing to play around with. Just say like, no, it's too complicated.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. How many games are we going to play in our lives? How many campaigns are you going to have? What if this is the only one? Like, go for it. Use time travel. And for me, it's one of those things where if it really bothers you, then create a meta structure for your campaign world that allows for time travel without everybody needing to be like, I can't step on this blade of grass because of that one Jeff Goldblum speech.
Yeah. Well, and Endgame surprisingly did a nice version of timey-wimey stuff, and somewhat adhere to the rules that they had laid out for themselves.
Right.
So not completely. I like the Chronergist a lot. It has a lot of control, and I like all those spells. It is interesting that they don't flat out say that everyone can get those spells unless you get DM approval. And I was a little surprised.
I love it.
I love it.
I love spells as treasure. Spells as
treasure is amazing.
So what I like to do is, and this is, I haven't yet had a chance to like run this, but I sometimes do it as a thought experiment, is to take the spells that are available in basic 5th edition. Right, like the spells that you get in the starter kit or in the free online version. And those are the spell everybody knows. You don't have to ask for approval for many of those. But even the other ones in the player's handbook, and of course Xanathars and others, are like, those are the DMs. And they either represent like spells the enemies know, spells you can acquire as treasure. That makes spell books really valuable as treasure, because it's like there might be something in there that I otherwise have no other way to have access to.
I like that. I would, for wild mages in particular, which I don't know, controversial opinion, I feel like wild sorcery is not where it needs to be playable. And to be a lot of fun. I thought one of the coolest things I enjoyed for wild sorcery was like the Tome of Magic in 2nd edition had all these spells that were almost entirely only an option if you were a wild mage, and I thought that was really cool. And they all did a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah.
And it'd be really fun to actually include those and have that same kind of like, okay, for a wild sorcerer, you can learn these spells, but no one else can. I think that would add a lot to the wild mage in terms of making it more unique.
I felt the closest we've come to that has been the School of Invention. That clearly got turned into some armor and some other things in Ravnica. But like, what I wanted to see was like, take that, I don't know what spell I'm about to cast, like mindset, and just to give that to the wild sorcerer as a feature or something. But yeah, I like the idea of spells as treasure, and even for sorcerers, we're just talking about wizards, but for sorcerers, it could be like you learn a new technique that if the next time you level up or whenever. Let you swap out this spell. Or for warlocks, right? Like, think about warlocks. This is what your patron allows you to cast.
Yeah.
You know basic spells. Everybody knows dispel magic, but like you're gonna get this spell or this other spell for that. So I like the idea of spells as magical treasure.
Yeah, and that was the fun. And I feel like we have a wizard in our party right now. I run Beyond Heroes, and I feel like I've failed them to some degree because they just kind of grab their spells willy-nilly. And that is the fun. Like, there's a wonderful moment in Critical Role where Caleb freaks out because he suddenly sees all these scrolls, these wizard scrolls of spells, but they can't show that they had any presence in that room. But
Right.
he has this, what is worth more than gold to him is sitting them right there on the desk, and he can't take it. And they almost get into a fight over it.
Right.
Because that's how rare it is to find this magic. And I just thought that was like, that's a really great moment. And I always enjoyed, like, you know, Raceland and Dragonlance's progression and trying to find spell books, and that hunger he had for more knowledge, I think, is kind of one of the best parts about playing wizard. And if you don't want that, be a sorcerer.
Sure. Right. Like, I think that's a really really insightful. The acquisition of spells, especially, you read a lot for wizards, and I know we're way off in the weeds here, but like the fact that you have to specifically call out that spells are treasure is one of those things that you kind of, I hear see a lot that wizard players are like, I don't know that I get all the spells I should. Like, there's a big difference between the theory crafted wizard and the wizard that is played at a table. And if you're only getting the 2 spells on level up, then you're not,
that's true.
It's one of those things where you have to have it's a player DM acting in concert kind of thing. You have to have a DM willing to do it, and a player willing to use that as a motivation to get out there and kick in some doors and play D&D.
So we do have an interesting question, and this does bring up some things. How well do you think the Echo Knight and the Ancestral Guardians Barbarian synergize? It depends on how you mean, because I could reflavor the Ancestral Guardians Barbarian that I could have it so that Barbarian is actually summoning, the potentiality of all of his selves into a single moment to help protect his friends. Is an easy ask, right, to any DM. Like, if you were playing an Explorer's Guide to Wildemount and you were playing an Ancestral Guardian, why can't those guardians, in fact, actually be yourself? I think that's interesting. I think that's a lot of shadowy echoes on the battlefield. If you are playing, if you have 2 of those in your party, that's interesting. If you're multi-classing, very bizarre. I don't know how they synergize if you multi-class. I would have to take a hard look at that.
It's been a while since I played Barbarian, and I've never actually played a fighter. So
so the Echo Knight isn't technically casting any spells, so that's a whole thing.
It's using that alternate force. And that's what I like about. First off, the flavor of it is great, but I love the fact that it's a sort of like Rune Knight. And I guess Arcane Archer, like, sort of, I'm sure I'm forgetting a few others. They have a magical ability. These are magical fighters. They just don't have spells. And I can totally imagine a monastery-like setup where it's a bunch of Echo Knights mastering this form. And like, one of those things where you can imagine that all they need is a perfect moment, because as long as they get one moment, they can recall that one whenever they need it, kind of thing, and work that into the flavor when you use these abilities, because that's what I love about this. This is what really, like, I'm glad it's the first one, because I was really like, oh my god, I gotta play this. I have to play an Echo Knight.
Echo Knights are really cool and very effective in the battlefield. You get quite a few attacks, not as many as some may think, but if you take, like, Mage Initiate, or you dip into another class so you can get Hex or Hunter's Mark, then you're doing a ton of damage. Super, super dangerous. So the Echo Knight is solid, and you get a little bit of everything you want. You can move around the battlefield a lot easier. You can spy on people, almost like having your own weird familiar. There's a lot to the Echo Knight, and it's got a nice simplicity to it that I enjoy a bit.
I'd like to see more in the lines of this, because it's got a lot to work with, and it's a hefty subclass, right? But it doesn't feel cluttered. And so I really like that. Like I said, this is the one that I really want to dig into, start making a variety of characters. And I had not. Ancestral Guardian is one of those I forget about from Barbarian, so I would definitely sit down and find out where the breakpoints are.
I had someone who played one in our kind of as Guardian game, and it was really effective. They had a great time playing them. Yeah, it's a great team player barbarian. So
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised. So let's see.
Any other questions?
How are the gods reacting to mortals manipulating time? Wasn't it forbidden in lore? There's a lot of D&D lore where mortals do affect time. Raceland Major very specifically affects time. They try to make the point that you can't really affect time. It's just like a ripple in the stream. It really depends on what you're into. So
Yeah, there was a whole supplement for second edition that was about time travel.
Oh, there was. Wow.
Yeah, and it was like you play it, you know, 'cause they're taking like the Forgotten Realms part of the lore of it really seriously, and it gives rules for like various time periods of like, all right, this is the height of the Delzoon dwarves or whatever.
Oh,
Or,
yeah.
even going back further than the Netherese Empire. So, and it had a lot of examples of the various ways that the time travel. I think my favorite was wizards in the present who send adamantine golems in the past.
Yeah.
And with instructions to just wait here when you're done, and then they just go from the summoning room to the cave.
Yeah.
And get there whatever they needed.
Yeah.
And that was really I thought that was pretty clever.
I think I would personally enjoy a time campaign setting quite a bit, actually.
Yeah,
where,
I would. Yeah.
You are given the history of like a city or a world with 7 different time periods that you knowingly are jumping around and having to fight other people who are jumping around in time as well and manipulating events. Could be really fun. There's an entire show based off that. So
oh sure, right, exactly. But what I think would be cool for D&D is to like, because you can so richly explore one place, like to sort of flip the model of we start here in this little village and then spread out. It's like, no, you stay in the big city and you explore the various time periods of it. You act as guardians in some ways. Like maybe it was you that's on that mural you passed by on the first session, you know, that kind of thing.
I had an instance of the. I obviously have a character who made a pact with themselves, their future self, which is very Fistendentalus and Raceland.
Oh yes.
I also had a situation where I like closed loops a lot. I had a character that was in a game of mine that was running. They were new to D&D, so I said, you don't remember who you are. And it ultimately ended up that at the end of our campaign, they did go back in time. And they found her body in a stream with 2 arrows in her back and slightly singed in the very first episode. And then she got knocked into that same river at the very last episode.
Nice. Yeah.
With 2 arrows in her back. And so she has a closed loop. So she never existed. It's kind of the idea there is that she's just this anomaly. I like playing characters that are anomalies in that way. So
certainly. And what perfect place like a D&D world to do that, right? Like, because that's where the anomalies can exist and carve out a niche for themselves.
Yeah, I believe that Lauren Urban, Oboe Crazy herself, is not overly fond of time plot lines. I also know that my friend Chris Perkins is not a huge fan of timelines.
Listen, they're a DM's headache. They are a DM's headache, but
yeah, they are a DM's headache.
So fun to play around with.
Yeah. So I'm game for all kinds of time manipulation. I think about this stuff constantly. So so what else do we have? Questions. Wouldn't time manipulation basically be a big problem for the inevitables in Mechanus?
I think they'd hunt down time mages.
Yeah, they come for you, which is fun.
Yeah. And there's, how many time mages are there versus how many inevitables? You can stay under the radar, that kind of thing.
I think, would a revived rogue eventually get onto an inevitables radar for being too aware of what's going on?
I thought there was at least one celestial or lawful neutral type that was, no, we come after people who've come back from the dead. Like that's
there's a couple of things like that. Like you would be on that list because for my character Averin, I want to simplify that. That's the guy who gets put in jail. That's someone you put into interplanar jail, and you're like you throw away the key. You're like you're too much of an ass. Like
prison. Yeah, it's that prison on Adventure Time.
Yeah.
But that brings up the hollow one. One of the race options for that's in
Yeah.
Wildemount that I was like, that's really cool because it's sort of like the idea of a soulless animate corpse that
Mm-hmm.
still has like I love undead that have retained a portion of themselves.
Right.
Even if it's a mindless zombie that instinctively just goes back to their home or something like that.
Yeah.
The idea that you're a fully sentient undead that doesn't have a bunch of powers necessarily, that's not like a
No.
vampire or a lich. You're just like, this is my rotting body, and I'm still here, and I remember how I died,
Yeah.
and just the potential for that's really fun.
Yeah, I would like more boons like that in D&D.
Death doesn't have to be the end of your D&D character. It can be the
Clearly not.
transformation. You know what I mean? Like, it can be a moment where you go, did you want to respec? Did you, did you want to do something different with your character? And I think the Hollow one, I love the idea of an option being only available after a certain thing happens in the game.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I love, oh yeah, you
Almost like
died. No.
prestige feats,
Yeah. Or what was it called? The location-based sort of feats where it's like you could go somewhere, and then you could get access to this feat.
Yeah, which is they do that in MMOs. Like there are certain skill lines in like Elder Scrolls Online you cannot learn unless you complete certain missions. And that's
Sure.
fun.
What if you
or
can't
any
learn,
RPG really?
What if you can't learn, truly learn and master, gravity magic until you've experienced that slight pull of an event horizon or something? I don't know, that you projected yourself out there or something. I saw an interesting question in chat. Let me see if I can find it, regarding like the magic of gravity on other planes, and sort of how, I can't find the question at the moment, but it was like,
how would you DM for Graviturgis on other planes? Would gravity in the Shadowfell be different from the plane of air? It's a good question. I mean, yeah, you're kind of, a lot of your abilities, you're still moving people around. I mean, it doesn't affect the Graviturgis too badly.
The only one I can think of would be a problem is the astral plane, because the astral plane explicitly has no gravity. Things just float. And they have no, if you like shoot an arrow, the arrow is going to continue till it hits something. And so in that way, it's like outer space, but there's nothing to drag it down or cause it to move. It just keeps going straight. And so the astral plane would, but that's because it's a plane of pure mind. Like it's just ideas. So in that sense, I would allow someone who successfully deluded themselves into believing gravity existed on the astral plane to use gravity magic. But that's got to require a save or something for self-delusion that powerful.
It's an interesting question. How would you ever let a low-level party member get their hands on either a vestige or, the arms of betrayers? There's lots of great literature on this. The One Ring.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know how it'd scale them down. It would depend on which vestige, but I would. I love the idea of the characters getting hold of a magical item that doesn't seem powerful at all and then grows. And I would probably, for myself, just give them something super mundane that exists in the DMG and then grow it from there. Like a ring of feather falling, and then all of a sudden you're 6th level and you're like, this thing's talking to me.
Right.
I may have made a grave error. So that's how I would role play that. I like the idea of magical items that like grow as time goes by.
Absolutely.
And I think that's super effective.
I think the way you were just saying, that's how I would kind of approach it too. There's something fun about putting a really powerful magic item in low level hands, but it's not a beginner DM or beginner player kind of move. It's one of those things where if you've been playing for a long time, you're like, we've never gotten to use this artifact. Let's just give it to you at level 1. It's one of those kind of things. But for a regular game, especially if you're starting out with the game, introducing it slowly, like I want to include this, I want to make sure it's here. But like Todd was saying, maybe it's just a +1 sword, or maybe not even that. It's just an heirloom or something where you found it, and unlocking its power is part of your part of what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. So you're gravitating towards the Echo Knight the most?
I think I mean both of the wizard subclasses they're strong. I like them. I think they fill some conceptual niches in D&D that that could be filled, and they also offer something unique. But the one that speaks to me, the one that I'm like, I gotta play this, and I want to just fiddle around with it, make some characters,
Yeah.
is the Echo Knight. Just because it's, I don't know, just the idea of pulling in your potential selves and
Yeah.
manifesting them is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's really fun, and there's a lot of utility to it. I would say the only thing that has more utility is like the Rune Knight right now in UA, which is almost too perfect, because I think fighters sometimes can suffer, like if you have a more theater of the mind type of campaign, there can be a limitation to what you can do as a fighter. You may just be sitting there, on your butt.
Mhm.
Echo Knight is really cool because you're a very effective scout. You can help protect your friends in combat if you want to, and you're obviously great in combat as well. But the fact that you could send your Echo so far out to do things,
Oh yeah,
makes you kind of remarkable in that sense. Like, you're not a one-trick pony at that point.
yeah.
Um,
The only thing that comes close is like a trickster cleric's
yeah.
duplicate, and I think and there's I'm trying to remember what all they can do. It's been
Well,
a
they
while
can
since I've
cast
seen one
spells through
actually.
their duplicates.
Smash 12s, that's the big one.
Yeah, which everyone's like, oh, the Trickery Domain is so weak. I'm like, no, it's
Nah,
not. All you get
no.
is poison damage. I'm like, you're
Yeah,
playing it wrong if you're getting
you're
into combat.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I played one in a group in the LA of friends, of notable
Mhm.
friends, and they were horrified at what I was capable of
It's
playing a Trickery
fun.
Domain
They're
cleric.
fun, and I'm sure you'll start hearing stories of Echo Knights sort of the same way. Of just like, I cannot believe that they got,
Yeah, and I mean, you start confusing the enemy if you've got like an ancestral barbarian. You've got an
I'll
Echo
throw in an
Knight, and then you have a
illusionist.
Trickery Domain.
Let's throw in a trickery domain and then round it out with an illusionist who's backing that up with an adaptable major image.
Yeah, so you don't
Mhm.
know who you're fighting at that point,
No,
right?
is
Like,
it a ghost? I don't know. What is this?
yeah, how do you
Yeah,
deal with that? Like, it's kind of like, at what point does something become situationally just very upsetting for the enemy? It's kind of like that
yeah,
teleporter concept I came up with. I'm like, yeah, but like, will the enemy know where you are at that point if you're
right.
teleporting twice every round?
Exactly, and it throws up some interesting questions for like D&D combat, because perceiving something is an action, right? Like,
Yes, and
and
this
and
gets
that's how
into
I.
that illusion realm of
Uh-huh.
dungeon master player buy-in of like, okay, well, how smart are your NPCs really? Because
Right, right.
they don't make them geniuses, because they're
Sure,
probably
right.
not.
They're not all Jesus. Certainly not. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things like that where I handle those problems by making tables for myself. Just something I can roll on, so I don't have to be forced to make that decision. I can go like, oh, I like this, or I don't, and I want to do this thing instead. Um, it helps
Hmm.
with that. But yeah, I like those things, right? I like the ability for the players to be given a tool as opposed to like a unitasker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you've ever seen whatever it is, Alton Brown's old show, forget which one, the cooking one. This is how my memory works, which is like I don't remember any proper names for anything. Uh, and so it's like I want a multitasker, and the ability to like summon a duplicate, the ability to have a resource I can manipulate is like,
Yeah.
man, give me that toy. We're gonna have some fun.
My current obsession has I recently played Graviturgist, but I did find myself, I don't know how not to play characters that try to convince people of terrible ideas.
Oh yeah,
It's just what I do as a player.
I
And
mean
it
that's
kind
called
of made me
playing D&D.
realize, probably the most manipulative class you could play right now is an Echo Knight, because they get that rune for the cloud where you get like advantage on all deception checks. I'm curious if that's going to survive, because otherwise you got the master manipulator. You take that prestige feat, that prodigy feat,
Uh-huh.
so you got
Yeah.
expertise in deception, and then you have
Deception.
advantage on all deception checks. I'm like, are you the most manipulative person in D&D then, as a
I
as a
yeah,
rune knight?
as a rune knight, yeah, like it unlocks it. I guess a bard can get that with enhance ability, but
Yeah,
that lasts like 10 minutes concentration.
yeah, that's true.
I
That's true.
forget how long the rune knights lasts, but
Oh, it's
it certainly
forever.
Okay. That's now I'm remembering why we liked Rune Knight so much.
Now, we're getting this conversation a lot.
Oh yeah.
Flanking. So, can an Echo Knight use its own Echo to flank? I would say not. It's not a creature. It's
Mhm.
not defined as a creature in any way. Jeremy Crawford has explicitly said that is simply there.
It's not
And
like a
also,
trickery
flanking
domains.
rules are
Okay.
optional for the dungeon master to use, and it can get quite fiddly. Um,
Sure.
so I would not allow it. Does the Echo avatar actually allow you to teleport 1,000 feet? I think rules is written it does. I'm not sure. We'll have to take a
Let's
look at it
see.
again, but I don't know that it would be the end of the world if it did, to be
Yeah,
honest, because you still have to walk it there.
sure. That's true.
You know,
Still gonna take time.
it's still gonna take. It can't, do a whole these other things. So,
All right. What do you think about the heroic chronicle? That's the question I have. Because to me,
oh, I love the Heroic Chronicle. That is actually designed by James Hake.
yeah,
I think that is a tool that should probably exist in all D&D books, and
yes,
I think it
yes,
will help a lot of new players just kind of jump into any kind of setting. So I would
agreed.
like to see the Heroic Chronicle for Faerun. I would like to see it for Ravenloft. I would like
Yep.
to see it for any D&D campaigns.
Eberron. Yeah.
Yeah, Eberron. I would like to see a generic one.
Yep.
Um, and even to that end, I would almost invite seeing a heroic chronicle for the type of character you want to play. So, like, you're like, if you want to play, I feel like playing a creepy character, and then there's like a whole
Sure.
heroic chronicle.
Yeah, yeah. The peer, like because it's like an expansion on the backgrounds, right? It's like super background.
Yeah,
And it reminds me the most of Warhammer's Warhammer Fantasy Role Plays system for character creation, where you'll
yeah,
figure out how many siblings you have by the end of
yeah,
this.
yeah,
You know which village on this map you're from, and that's what I love. Like when we get to the settlement names here, I love the fact that I can look at a map and go, okay, I know where Broken Bank is, where Darktown.
yeah.
Like I'm there. That's where I'm from. Um,
I think it
and
invests you right away too.
it really does. And for me, I love coming to a first session without knowing at all what kind of character I'm going to play, and then through the course of that first few sessions, discovering them. It's like,
You, yeah, and you really can't know.
yeah,
I think this is why I've been playing D&D since forever.
right,
It's a terrifying number, and I have learned that perhaps it is a failure as an actor and a failure as a role player. I play a lot of different characters, and but I just like playing the one character I've always been playing. I've played very, very nice paladins, and
Mhm.
I've played my wood elf archers, and I've played a very not so bright giant soul sorcerer who is my baby boy in a lot of ways. But like I do gravitate towards one.
Mhm.
But yeah, every time I play one of those characters, I don't know who they're going to be, and sometimes I end up not liking them
Oh yeah,
by the end of a session because you don't
certainly,
know you don't know who they're going to be until those events happen to them and shape them, and you kind of realize like, okay, this is who I'm playing now. Like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
a charlatan, or I'm kind of the tank, or like you don't know. You can't really. I don't know that you can always predict that. You can't
yeah,
predict yourself.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I've written oodles and oodles of backstory, and I like doing that just because it's fun for me, and I like to know what a character's motivation is.
Mhm.
But I will throw all of that out the window in a heartbeat after about 5 minutes playing a character.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely, if it doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
Most of my backstory stuff comes later on, mid-campaign, and it's based on a random thing I'll have said, in character, and then retrospectively we'll go, well, this is how it's part of the backstory. And what I love about the Heroic Chronicle, first off, it like to me, it's the culmination and sort of fulfillment of fifth edition's promise of being able to merge the second edition style epic quest. You guys are the protagonists of a fantasy story. With the first edition, you guys are sort of outlaw, mercenary, murder hobo. We're going to unleash you on this poor populace. And I think like fifth edition's been straddling that divide, and Heroic Destiny really is like, okay, you can have this. This can be your character's arc within this greater game
Mm.
that we're going to play. and like, here's how we're going to supercharge that. This is where you're from. This is sort of you embedded. You're going to care more about this place that you're wandering around, or having, or completing quests in, or whatever it is. You're part of the world.
Yeah, funny question. Since Jeremy Crawford confirmed that the Echo is a object, would you guys allow that you can cast Catapult on it? No, I wouldn't, because it has no weight, probably. I don't think that the Echo has any defined weight. I think it's kind of silly, but that's up to the DM.
Yeah.
But I don't. The thing is, you are the one that has to choose where that Echo gets moved. I don't know that any force can cause the Echo to move in any direction necessarily. The Echo Knight does pose a lot of questions.
It does.
Jeremy Crawford has almost been 24/7 hotlining the Echo Knight questions that keep coming in. I think what's the intention? Probably not to use Catapult on the Echo Knight. It's also kind of manipulative, especially if you're trying to get an object near an enemy a little bit faster than you're getting really metagamey, right?
Sure.
Like, okay, I can't get my Echo Knight close enough, but if I cast Catapult, I'll get it there right away. So now you're teleporting your Echo Knight, that is your Echo, and also doing damage with it. It's like you're just getting Thunder Step for your Echo. In a limited capacity. So I mean, as a DM, I'd be like, come on. I would probably call you off.
This is where, like, it is going to require a lot of rulings, and I think if ruling from a narrative focus forward is how I like it. What does the fiction of this say? What is that? What this is the thing that we're here for, right? We're here for whether you're immersed in it, whether you want to just do deep character stuff, whatever it is, we're here for the fantasy world and the story we're going to make in it. So like, that should be the first thing that you consider. And after that, make a ruling based on the situation. Like, based on that, I might say, with respect to Mr. Crawford, I would allow a flanking. If I'm already using that option,
right,
then I'm already moving away from the baseline assumption of the game. And so, yeah, why not? It's fighting. It might not be a creature, but it is a threat. And so that's how I would rule those kind of things.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Because some other things that have been interesting that, like, I remember I built a lot of my combat. For some reason, I'm obsessed with mirror image, for instance, which is why I like Echo Knight. But I love using the Sentinel feat with it, mirror image. It works perfectly, especially for Hexblade. So you can knock that out all the time. So I'm always a fan of tricksy stuff on the battlefield. It makes me very happy.
And this is why, like, checking in with your DM first and letting them know, like, here's what I plan on doing with this. This is what I'd like to do eventually. And not treating it like a gotcha for your DM, like, oh, I'm going to pull this one over on him, but being like, oh no, I'm just going to, I'd like to do this. I think this is cool. Can I flank that? Let them know ahead of time what they're going to have to make a ruling on, and you'll make hopefully your life easier.
Your DM is not your enemy. And I joke as a DM. I joke around about it a lot. Sure. Like, I'm going to kill you this season, session.
Yeah. That's because I'm a big softy.
I'm joking. And also I'm like trying to make you feel the stakes, but don't let it get out of hand in your brain to the point of, like, I've got to fool the DM. Sometimes you do. Sometimes it's a good thing to surprise the DM, and don't let the DM not let the DM know certain things ahead of time. Like, if you're tricking an NPC by giving them, a magical item that will, like, hurt their wisdom saving throws. Laura Bailey did this amazing trick in Critical Role that, I love it as a DM. I love being surprised by players. So if you have a good DM, then you should have a healthy relationship with them.
Certainly.
If it's something strategic that's a little weird and wonky, like casting Catapult on your Echo Knight, you just talk to your DM.
Especially if, when it comes up in play, it's going to halt things.
It is totally going to halt things.
You know what I mean? Like, there's one thing, because that's going to happen in combat. Rule books are going to come out, and it might totally halt the rhythm you got going. So, yeah, just giving it some forethought as a player. And this is one of those things where it's like, yes, you will have to think about your character between sessions
Yeah.
in a way that's not daydreaming about how awesome they are, you know.
Yeah. Drake Blackbeard, that's a good question, and I can actually elaborate quite a bit on this because I became obsessed with the concept, and I've been working towards it in my own campaign. What guarantees me that all the echoes will be of the same alignment? Can I rule that one of the echoes is of a different alignment and turn against the player? Listen, it's narrative, it's strangeness. I absolutely would. I literally have a character who was turned out to be an echo of an Echo Knight, and wasn't even of the same class. So they're not only an echo of an Echo Knight, they were a wizard. Like what their potentiality would have been had they been a wizard. Then they cast Wish to be real, and that gets really timey-wimey dimensional weirdness.
Yes.
Doesn't mean and I ruled, these are NPCs effectively, so I ruled that this Echo Knight no longer had magic because their shadow left, and took all that potential energy out of them, and became real. And I thought that was an interesting narrative. So if you think that's an interesting narrative, to have someone's shadow turn against them, I think that's great. I think that's a one-trick pony, though, in the sense that you don't want to do that a bunch of times.
Yeah, I would think that, especially if it's more than 1 or 2%,
Right.
you know, like,
yeah, that happens only once, and maybe you came across some kind of a dunamancy magic that kind of fractured their echo and caused, this evil echo.
yeah, maybe it's location based. Maybe there's a place.
Yeah. There's a lot there. I mean, hey, anything for the narrative. It is. Oh yeah, it's a good time to remind everyone that actually we're going to continue having a discussion on D&D Beyond's Discord. You can join us for a post-show chat and raffle. You can sign up for our Discord, and the link is going to be in chat right now. You can join live game I don't know. I'm trying to read this. I've been sent copy that I have not approved. No, you can join live game spoilers channel where we'll spend 30 minutes, not necessarily me and Jim, 30 minutes chatting about the most recent stream, and they're going to give away a code for the player's handbook on D&D Beyond. So that's pretty awesome. So if you're a new player or you don't have a version of the player's handbook on D&D Beyond right now, you can hang out and chat on Discord and get a chance to win that in the raffle. So that's really cool. I think that's about it. We could have probably made the whole show about Echo Knight.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, depending on what the next few weeks hold, to really digging into some of these in terms of ability by ability, because there's a lot to cover. There's just a lot in that chapter 4.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover. You get to call me out during a live stream. Yes, I did. Lauren Urban, I just called you out. This is the danger of working with your friends, is that you will talk crap during a live stream. But yeah, like that Knight has a lot of really interesting narrative things that can happen. The Graviturgis is, I was really thinking sneaky stuff, like, because the Graviturgis can line people up for spell effects later, the next round. So there's a lot of tag team spell effects that can get really interesting and strange pretty quickly, that I'm very curious about. So hang out in Discord. Jim Davis, you should be checking out. WebDM is a fantastic channel. It's a fantastic it's a fantastic Patreon. You can learn all kinds of things about D&D. We've got a lot of people who are learning D&D this month, and WebDM is an excellent tool for all of that. I continuously watch it all the time. Jim Davis and Pruitt are fantastic. They go deep into all those topics. So
we try to. It's also our 5-year anniversary this week. So
yeah, and you're up to something.
We are up to something. Hope we are crossing our fingers that it's in a state that we want to show others by tomorrow. Todd knows what that's like.
Yes, Todd does.
Yeah, but yeah, and we're planning on having more live content ourselves, especially as more people turn to streaming as their confined to their homes and the like. So
Yeah. If you need
yeah,
another player, let me know.
for real though, I just might. So yeah, awesome. We will. And I just joined the Discord as well. So yes, the D&D Beyond one.
Ooh,
There we go.
awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you everyone for watching. We will see you next week. And we are going to try out another show next week. We are starting Build's character. It's a new show where I am just going to sit around and make characters live using D&D Beyond. Since this is something I do obsessively already, I'm going to be doing it, I believe, around noon on Thursdays on D&D Beyond's own Twitch. And I will come up with a variety of character concepts and make them live using D&D Beyond. It will be functional in the sense that you will get an idea of how you build characters on D&D Beyond and the different tools, and also you get to see how obsessive I am about character creation. So stay tuned for that next week. All right, thank you so much for watching.